It's the Happy Families Podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
Hello and welcome to the Happy Families Podcast. My name is Dr. Justin Coulson. I'm here with my wife and mum to our 6 kids, Kylie, Mrs. Happy Families. Friday of every week, it's I'll Do Better Tomorrow, where we reflect on the week that was, we highlight what we did right or what we did wrong, and try to figure out how we can do things better tomorrow. Kylie, I'm going to go first today, and this is one of those ones where I kind of put myself in it. I had an incident. It's been a bit of a rough week. You got crook on Tuesday. I ended up unwell. Very, very rarely does this happen in our home, but I was incapacitated for Wednesday and Thursday. I'm still struggling right now as we record this podcast, and you're looking at me like you would rather still be in bed. Been a rough week. But during the week, one of the kids was having a particularly difficult time, and I decided that I needed to find out what was going on. So I walked into the room and I said, I've got a question for you. And I just started at her. I started asking the questions, a million miles an hour, kind of like a machine gun, like rat-a-tat-a-tat-a-tat, just one thing after another, after another. And I was getting what I thought were really, really great answers. You heard the conversation and walked in and said, now's not the time. I need to finish talking to you. I've already had this conversation. And so I stopped after a minute or two, walked out and said, okay, fine. Tell me what it is that you already know, because I've just had the conversation. Now I know everything. And we sat down and you started to talk to me. And it turns out that I got some superficial answers that were sufficient to satisfy me, only to discover that your previous conversation had been far deeper and that you knew a whole lot more about what was going on than I did. That's my I'll Do Better Tomorrow. That's the whole thing.
One of the benefits to being in a relationship is that you have a partner in crime.
Right.
And if you used them, you might find out lots.
So here I am thinking I'm doing, but let me go back a step. Quite often, as parents generally, but I'm going to get a little bit gender specific here, as dads specifically, we kind of just think, all right, well, I'm going to have the straight up conversation. I'm going to get the answers that I need and we can get on with it. Like, get in, get it done, get out. That's how we do shopping. It's how we do cooking. It's how we do life. Just get in, get it done, and get on with the next thing. And clearly, your conversation with our daughter was quite different to my conversation with our daughter. And as a result,
You know that quote by Shrek who said,
Ogres are like onions.
They stink?
Yes. No.
Oh, they make you cry?
No.
Oh, you leave them out in the sun, they get all brown, start sprouting little white hairs.
No. Layers. Onions have layers. Ogres have layers. Onions have layers. You get it. We both have layers.
girls in particular are layered.
see, guys are not that complex.
And you go in and you might get a top layer if you're lucky.
If someone says to me, Justin, what's wrong? What's the deal? Just tell me what's going on. I'll just tell them, or I won't, depending on whether or not there's trust in the relationship. I'll just say, oh, here's the thing, or actually, I just don't want to talk about it. It's going to be one of those two things. And I know that, I mean, we've got 6 daughters. I should have figured this out, and you, of course. But my I'll Do Better Tomorrow is sometimes the direct, straight up, hardcore, down the line, fair dinkum, no pulled punches approach is not effective.
Yay!
I don't know if it's
Yay for you! Yay for you! I'm glad you worked it out.
Probably won't change anything. But I guess the challenge here is I was certain when I walked out of the room. I sat down with you. I said, "There's nothing going on. It's just this," and that's when you rolled your eyes and said, "Well, actually, no." So that's my I'll Do Better Tomorrow, Kylie. The softly approach can sometimes be better than the hardcore, just get it done approach.
You know, not everybody like onions.
My story is kind of not my story, but it kind of is because I got a little bit involved. But our eldest daughter, Chanel, has gone back to work. And that meant that
we're now babysitting our
we're either
granddaughter.
Babysitting or her dad is babysitting.
No, her dad is being a parent. Her dad is being a dad. Let's just get that right.
And so her first shift was in the afternoon. Jared was able to babysit.
Was able to care for his own daughter. Sorry, I feel like I really need to clarify that. When I'm looking after the kids, do you consider that I'm babysitting them?
You did. Used to consider that you were babysitting.
Well, I've grown. I've gotten better. But let me ask you, do you feel like I'm babysitting when I'm looking after the children? Like, for example, this afternoon you're going away on a camp for a couple of nights and I'm going to have at least 1, 2, potentially 3 of our children at home. Am I babysitting the kids this weekend or am I?
You're dadding.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm being the dad. So
yeah.
Jared, I just really need to drill this point home. Jared is doing what his job is.
Jared is dadding. Yes.
Good. Okay. So Jared's got a dad.
So I decided to just ring and check up and make sure everything was going okay.
Right.
And we were having a great conversation and he may have acknowledged to me at that point that he fed Indy something that I know Chanel would not be happy with.
Let's just spill the beans. This was the Nutella story, isn't it?
It was Nutella.
Yeah. So
he gave us some peanut butter because he knows that she's allowed some peanut butter.
Indy's like 14 months old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was having Nutella. And he just looked at it and he was like, if she likes peanut butter, she is going to love Nutella.
Right.
And so he gave her some Nutella and you can imagine what a 14-year-old's eyes were doing, let alone what her taste buds were screaming.
14-month-old, but go on.
Did I say 14
years? You said 14-year-old. We know what our 14-year-old does when she sees Nutella.
But anyway, I had rung Chanel because I wasn't sure if she'd actually gone to work that day and she didn't pick up. So she saw the missed call and she rang me on her way home. And she said it was really hard, Mum. She said that's the first time where I haven't been able to like ring and just check in on her because I've had her a few times over the last few weeks and she's just sent me a text. Is everything going okay?
Yeah, but it's a big deal.
Asleep?
Big deal.
You know, so it was a really big deal for her not to be able to have that contact. And she said, I'm just nervous, Mum. I think that Jared may have fed her something that I know that he knows I wouldn't like him doing.
Oh, so she'd picked that up from a conversation.
Well, she said she'd asked him when she'd rung to make sure everything was okay after her shift. She'd asked him if everything was okay. And he said, yeah, everything's fine, but I'll talk to you about it when you get home. And she's like, he knows that I'm going to be really cranky. And so without me kind of thinking, we were just talking and I said, yeah, he definitely fed her something that you're not going to be happy with. And she's like, what, Mum? What? Tell me. And she was getting really worked up about it.
I can't believe that you're interfering in this.
Well,
this is terrible.
I was just.
We're supposed to be good in-laws here. We're supposed to be.
I wasn't even outing him. We were just having a conversation.
I wasn't outing him.
No, I wasn't.
I think you're going to discover that he did something that you're not going to be happy about. That doesn't sound like an outing at all. Oh, my goodness.
That wasn't my intention. I was just having a conversation. And when it came out, I was like, oh, I probably shouldn't have said that. Anyway, we kept talking and she said, Mum, she said, was it ice cream? And I said, no, it wasn't ice cream.
It's way worse.
And she said,
is that way worse? I don't know. I think they're probably equivalent.
She said, is it worse than ice cream? And I said, well, I don't know what your threshold is for what's good and what's bad. I said, I can't be sure.
The fact that you didn't say no.
I would consider Nutella worse than ice cream, I think. But as we continued the conversation, I kept trying to steer her back to a normal conversation. And we just kept coming back to it. She was really, really worked up about it. And she said, did they leave the house? And I was like, no. She said, well, what do I have in my house? And I said, well, if you don't think you've got anything bad in your house, then you've got nothing to worry about. And she said, but I don't know. And she got so worked up about it. And as we continued talking, I said, you know what? I said, when you go home, you're going to go inside and you're going to give your husband a big hug and tell him how grateful you are that he's looked after your baby, that she's nice and safe.
Nice recovery.
And she's like, no, I'm not. I'm going to be really angry at him. And I said, and we kept talking. And then she said, all right, I'm home. I'm going in to get angry at my husband. And I said, no, you're not. You're going to go and tell him that you're grateful. Anyway,
because he was babysitting?
Because he was babysitting. Because he was looking after her child. Their child.
Good.
But the moral of the story is, as parents, we get so worked up. Her whole perception in that moment was, this is why I don't like asking other people to do it, because they can't do it like me. And we get so riled up as parents sometimes, wanting things to go exactly to plan the way we want it to go, because we think there's only one way to do things. Yeah, it would be great if you didn't give her the Nutella, but it's not the end of the world. She's going to survive. And there are so many other things, whether it's grandparents who feed the kids ice cream at 10 o'clock in the morning.
That reminds me, it was my mum. It was my mum who was a dietitian. She's actually a dietitian who was feeding our children ice cream at 10 o'clock one morning for breakfast, literally. For breakfast on ice cream. Okay, you can. I think she said something about, but it's got all those, it's got dairy, like it's got milk in it.
No, she said if they won't eat, it's better that we get fat into them than nothing at all.
Right. Yeah. Fat and sugar. They'll be fine. Okay, so take home message from me. I mean, your story was so much better than mine. I can't even remember what I talked about now. What did I talk about?
Straight up 180 doesn't always work, especially with girls.
I can't believe I forgot that.
And my take home is,
I think it's because I'm not doing well.
Don't sweat the small stuff.
Yeah. I think it's because I'm not doing well. I'm still not fully recovered from the Indian that I ate the other night.
Excuses.
I don't think,
and nobody needs to know that.
Don't think I can ever look at a bowl of Indian the same way again.
Do you know that? TMI.
I'm so sorry. Take home message: gently, softly, and don't worry. Some stuff is worth worrying about, and other stuff is not. And sometimes we get caught up on the wrong stuff. Even if our child does become a Nutella addict and won't eat any other real food.
So I know the story
lives.
was about Chanel and Jared, but it's about us. Like as parents, we always have these situations. And I think about it looking back. I've just been going over some old journals and reading back some of the experiences we had.
Yeah.
And I wonder, is the Nutella the problem, or is it the angst that we create coming home?
The big reactions.
That has more impact on our kids.
Yeah. As we prepared for today's podcast episode, because it's been such a nothing week with me being sick and you being sick, you called out to one of the kids and said, "We need a story for I'll Do Better Tomorrow." And one of the kids said, "Dad got angry on Tuesday night." that was it. Like they said, nothing else has happened. It's been a terrible week. Dad got angry on Tuesday night. And immediately I felt a rush of pain to my heart, because I was already coming down with whatever was going on. I think you were already sick. There was a lot of stress, a lot of pressure. But of the whole week, that's the only thing that our daughter could think of. That was the only thing that stood out to her. And it made me just think, if I'd given her a Nutella sandwich, maybe everything would be better. She was certainly quite direct. I would have liked it if she'd been a bit more softly. See what I did there? See the way I brought that back? Yeah. Hey, we hope you have a great weekend. We hope that our take-home messages today are useful in helping you to do better tomorrow. Have a fabulous couple of days across the weekend, and we will look forward to joining you again on Monday morning for your podcast fix. The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Roland from Bridge Media. If you'd like more info about making your family happy, you'll find everything you need at happyfamilies.com.au.
Ogres are like onions.